record this. Yes, I am recording this. I will try to broadcast it. Let's just know that I have to multitask, which is very Gemini right now, right? Because I have to manage and talk and speak and etc. So normally if I was being like Linda, what's her name? I would say, talk among yourselves, coffee talk, you know? So I'll give you subject matter, Gemini. Love them, hate them. What do you think about them?
So
my Gemini twin is Shoshana, because Shoshana was born on June 11th and I was born December 11th, and we are literally 180 degrees across from each other in the zodiac.
Yep, I noticed that too.
And I see all these things I admire. I'm like, why can't I be like that?
And vice versa, my dear.
It's just a trip. It's a trip. Okay, all right, go live on Facebook. Is this going to happen or not? If you could see my screen right now, you would see this little icon swirling and whirling around. Well, this happens sometimes when it doesn't connect. So fine, I'll just record it and people can watch the recording. Okay, good. It's more intimate in a way. So, yeah, so we are here together, and I'm just going to say that this is a really interactive subject, and I love interacting with people during classes, but it's really better to, I don't know, be judicious with your questions, like maybe wait until I've stopped and drawn my breath for a minute, like, you know, and we'll see how that works. If you have a really important question, you can raise your hand, either like this, but I might not see it because I'm going to screen share, or in the chat, you can, and there's some kind of thing like you can raise your hand, okay? So hold on, let me share my screen. Yes. Okay. Here we go. All right, you know what? So I've been doing this series. I didn't even think I didn't plan in advance that I was going to do this series. What happened is we started the Aquarian Minyan Yeshiva on Rosh Chodesh Nissan. So I needed to say something about Nissan. Then came ER, I had to say something about ER. Now, hello, it's going to be Chodesh Sivan. Of course, I have to say something about Sivan. So that basically looks like an entire series. I'll see you in a year when we start all over again. But we are basically going to do this once a month and sort of rock around the zodiac together and discover some of the insights into the universal archetypes, you know, that are always good every year. It's called evergreen. It always works. And then particularly this year, where we are in the cycle of Jewish history and where we are in the stars right now. So sort of two views, and two, of course, is an important number because we're talking about the twins, Gemini, right? So if you haven't been in this class before, which I think a couple of you maybe have not, just a quick background on how we even came to be asking this question, because on one hand, everywhere in Jewish material cultural history is astrology. There's zodiac motifs and individual zodiac signs throughout, from antiquity until the eve of World War II, on things that are holy like Torah crowns and Torah binders and synagogue walls, to things that are of everyday use like calendars, to swaddling bands that medieval Ashkenazi women would embroider for their children after they had had a Brit Milah, to bind them up with the mazel, the constellation that they were born under, embroidered on it. How does that reconcile with this over here, saying, Ein Mazal Yisrael, my friend in Mea Sherim, so we've had many fun times together, basically disagreeing about a lot of things, because it is written in the Shulchan Aruch, one must not consult of the astrologers and not consult lots. So there's this ideal of like, how do we make these two things make sense. So I had to do a lot of investigating to get the answer. So of course, there's tons of evidence. I have beautiful pictures in this, which of course you can borrow and upload, etc. when I post this afterwards. Every kind of beautiful, ornate, gorgeous thing adorned with zodiac motifs throughout all of our history. So there's no question. Nobody can say we had no relationship with astrology or the zodiac, because there's such a thing called evidence. So that's behind us. In the book of Numbers, which we are starting, Baruch Hashem, this Shabbos, book Bamidbar, okay? We are going to read this coming Shabbos. It's so amazing. Such a gaval. It says that Hashem instructed Moshe and Aaron. He said to both of them. You have to note that, because sometimes it just is LaMoshe LaMor, you know, he said to him, to Moshe, or once in a while, I think, to Aaron directly. But this is something he said to them together. Said, the Israelites shall camp, each with his standard, meaning his flag, under the banner of their tribe. They shall camp around the tent of meeting, meaning the Mishkan or the tabernacle, at a distance meaning from the tabernacle itself. And it's very, very specific about the way the camps are arrayed. They're always the exact same way. It's always Aries and Yehuda to the east, opposite Ephraim, which is Libra, to the west, and to the north Dan, and to the south Reuven, and the tribes next to them arrayed exactly like that. And so you see that the zodiac, the representation of the zodiac is exactly the same, as above, so below. How does that happen? Happens because somebody was thinking ahead when they were planning how to create the universe. Even before we were created, this mirror image was created above us in a very special way. That's very, very relevant to Shavuot and to what's happening to us right now. Okay, so if somebody is not muted, can you please mute yourself? Mazal Ta'umin, Gemini, the twins, and Chodesh Sivan. This is a picture of the twins from the Sefer Avranot, which was scribed by Pinchas ben Avraham Siegel of Halberstadt, Germany in 1716. This is the twins in this particular representation. The Sefer Avranot is a really well-known book of intercalcations dealing with the Jewish calendar and how to make the leap year. This was the big question. This was the sod, the mystery, the secret, okay? And it was first written in 1527, and there's a few illuminated manuscript copies left. We luckily have one. By we, I mean the Jewish people in Jerusalem. Thank you. Gemini, the twins, everybody knows, right? This is Gemini from a Machzor, a German Machzor in 1342. They're wearing these crazy things. I looked at them and I'm like, are they wearing like a dreidel or a top? Some kind of crazy Purim hat on their head? I'm like, Purim isn't Gemini, why is that? So it ends up that they're wearing this kind of crazy headgear or hat thing that this Christian Catholic council imposed on the Jews in Germany in the Ashkenaz Rhine area in the year 1215. So even they were drying themselves as they were looking at the time. This is like an amazing glimpse into what was contemporary for them, Jewish life. And their hats to discriminate them, and I'm not going to say hats of shame, hats of differentiation imposed by the outside were depicted here, along with the zodiac, like regular, just like it's there, okay? Here, this is a Jewish astronomical manuscript from Vienna, the year 1391. Two naked youths with blonde hair and pink body, which is now turned black with time, but they know this because they dissected it and described. So you see human representations there of Gemini in Jewish manuscripts from 1391 and 1342. So this is 14th century. This isn't the 1920s. Okay, so you're seeing human representations. This is from a Day of Atonement buckle, a Yom Kippur buckle, a buckle for the Sefer Torah, like a special way they had of, not a belt buckle that the rabbi would wear, a buckle for the binding of the Torah from Galicia in 1818, which was decorated with all 12 signs of the zodiac. Of course, I had, needless to say, by any definition, this is what you'd call a from synagogue, and all of these things that I'm showing you. None of this came from a reform movement or anything that would be like, yeah, they're making pictures of humans now because they're the reforming. No, that's not true at all. Here we've got Gemini from the Beit Alpha synagogue in the 6th century, made by Jews, pictures of humans. On the other hand, sometimes the twins are depicted in human forms, as I said. Other times they're depicted by objects or animals or symbols from nature. Like this one from Poland in 1640 has a cup and flowers, but this is also indicates the androgynous nature of Gemini. It has a man's hand and a woman's hand. Man is holding the cup, woman is holding the flowers, okay? Over here, this is an illustration from the Kiddush Lavana from Poland in 1850, and Gemini, they had the entire zodiac in this blessing because, you know, they're blessing the moon. What's that called if it's not an astrological experience, I guess you could say, right? So it's depicted as Gemini there is depicted as 2 trees. Sometimes Gemini is also depicted as bird-headed twins, which almost really looks like Jonathan, the picture that Jonathan has in his presentation about disease and contagion and Jewish response to that in Jewish community. This is from 1258 Germany, and this is described as a bird-headed, but it looks to me like 2 Jewish doctors disagreeing about a diagnosis.
That's very possible that these bird head things were masks for epidemic times. It's very possible.
It could be, and that could be another example of when we see Jewish art, it's literally like it's depicting what they're experiencing right there. It's such a mirror to their, and ours, I will say, ours and their time period. This one is from a synagogue in Poland, 1850. These are birds, lots of times, many times, much more so than any other animal. Gemini is depicted as a bird. Why is that? I don't know, maybe because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Gemini is, you know, tweet, 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 all the little robins going tweet, tweet, tweet. Gemini is chatter, chatter, chatter. Gemini is quick thinking. Gemini is the very, very quick exchange of information, the interface between information going back and forth. Okay, obviously the predominant trait of Mercury is that of communication, and Gemini is an air sign. It's a mutable air sign. So it's the communication of the air. What is more communicative of the air of all things than birds? And I think Jonathan first is going to be teaching about the language of the birds on Shavuot at the Aquarian Minyans Tikkun Leil Shavuot get together, Shindig, on Thursday night the 28th. And that is very, very in sync with the energy of Gemini. In medical melothesia, which is the practice of treating disease by understanding the astrological associations to different human body parts, this is a figure called Zodiac Man. There are many examples of medieval healing books of all different kinds with these zodiac men. This happens to be a Jewish one. And in medical melothesia and the idea, of course, of the correspondence of parts, Gemini is the shoulders and arms and hands, basically. So we started off with Nissan as the head, Aries, connects is the neck, Taurus, the bull necked, think about that. The neck connects the body, Nissan, to the rest of the head and the body. connected by ER. Then you have Sivan, Gemini. It's thought to also rule the collarbones, which are the bones right under your neck there, shoulders, arms, hands, okay? Nervous system for sure. Sivan is symbolized by the combination of the letters of the divine name. Every month there's a different combination of the letters. We start off with Yud He Vav He, and then last month in Sivan it was Yud He He Vav. This month it's Yud Vav He He. Okay, so that's something to think about. I like to look at all those different permutations. There's so many different ways to play with them, which I'm not going to get into because it is a black hole in it. You can fall down it for hours. There are other people in the world better at falling down that hole than I am, so I'm going to let them do that. But yesh, you should just take my word for it. There's a lot of fun you can have with that. So Sivan, Gemini, Taomim, the twins, it is associated with the letter Zion, okay, the 7th letter. The ruling attribute is travel, movement. Of course, I said it before, it's an air sign of the 4 elements, air, fire, earth, and water. It's the mutable air sign. Each of the 4 elements has 3 different modalities or ways of expressing themselves. Okay, cardinal initiates energy, fixed stabilizes and establishes energy, and mutable changes and transforms energy. So there's 4 mutable signs, okay, Gemini and the opposite, which is Sagittarius, and the 2 signs that square that, which are Virgo and Pisces. So interestingly, all of the mutable signs are ruled by either Mercury or Jupiter. So Mercury, Jupiter in the classical sense, because Jupiter ruled Pisces and Sagittarius in classical astrology before the discovery of good old Neptune. So co-rulers. So the tribe is Zevulon. Because Yaakov is a twin to Esav, the Torah was given during the sign of Gemini. This is from the Zohars, brought down by, what's his name, the Prihat Zadok. That's Zadok HaKohen. He talks about the twinship of Yaakov and Esav. That calls attention to the story of Yaakov receiving the blessings of the firstborn. So there's this idea of the trickster, the switcher, the switcheroo. And of course, that's Yaakov, right? And that's Gemini. That's one of Gemini's many, many multifaceted manifestations, because Gemini is many, 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 many different things. Each twin has a twin, has a twin, has a twin, and so on and so on. Like that old shampoo commercial where the woman was washing her hair in the mirror, and it was a very fun effect in the 1970s, if you remember that. So Tzadok Cohen says that the first 3 months of the year are symbolized by the patriarchs, of course. Nissan is Abraham, grace and kindness. Er is Yitzhak, judgment and power. And Yaakov symbolizes Sivan, denoting beauty and meditation. I don't know, meditation is a good translation, but anyway, in the Midrash, it said that God wanted to, he was going through the months looking for a time to destroy the temple. So he's, the first 2 months he had his whole conversation. So God wanted to destroy the temple in the 3rd month, but the merit of Jacob stood forward, as it is said, and the boys grew. A quote from Genesis, and the boys grew. Who are the boys? Jacob and Esau. Gemini, the twins, everybody knows in every culture, there's always something about the twins that is ambiguous. Now, personally, I have twin grandsons, Baruch Hashem, Papa, etc., Bli Ein Hara, and I notice with the 2 of them that whenever there's a dynamic of 2, you can put 3 in there, everything changes. But when there's a dynamic of 2, there's one and then there's the other, and people need to find ways to differentiate themselves from each other, okay? So the idea of the twins is constant differentiation. In all of the cultures that we know of, there are stories and myths about twins being born. Castor and Pollux were the founders of Rome. Romulus and Remus, they were twins. Castor and Pollux were not the founders of Rome. Sorry about that. Okay, so there's always this sort of like opposite things going on, right? Male, female, One is warlike and one is peaceful. Gemini on the synagogue floor, one twin is holding a club. He's violent. The other is holding a lyre. He's musical, right? So this is the famous twins, Yaakov and Esav. Esav was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. Of course, that's also translated as a simple man, a peaceful man, not really peaceful, but tam, right? These polar opposites, masculine and feminine, etc., represent the conflict inherent in the sign of Gemini. I don't know if it's so much of a conflict, or it could be a conflict, or it could also just be like just having a huge deck of cards to play with at any given time. Really just depends on a number of different things. Okay, so Mercury is the ruling planet of Gemini, Sivan. The Hebrew for Mercury is Kochav, which of course only just means star, Kochavim, right? Mercury is the planet between the sun and the earth. And it's the planet that's the most familiar to the ancients, okay? Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. That's Sivan and Elul, and that's important to remember. So here another twin motif, the brothers Issachar and Zevulon. They weren't born as twins. They were born one after the other, miraculously in a way, because they come from the episode with the fertility herb that Reuven brought, the mandrakes, the dudaim, he brought them. And anyway, Leah ended up trading her night with Yaakov to her sister so that she could get these nice fertility drugs and take them. And she gave birth to Issachar and then Zevulon. All right, so there's this whole thing in Torah. Everybody knows, if you've been to yeshiva even for one half of a day, that there's a partnership, so quote unquote, between Zevulon and Issachar. Like Issachar is supposed to stay home and study Torah, and this is what he does all day. And Zevulon goes out and makes money. So this is the whole idea that fundraisers use to approach rich people and say, give us money to fund our yeshiva. Wait, and if anyone who's rich is listening to this, I'm saying this to you directly. Give us money to fund our yeshiva and we will learn Torah on your behalf. All right, you know it doesn't work that way, Dafka, but it does. It does in a lot of ways, because this is how people have bound themselves to each other socially in many ways. The business community supports the Torah community. This is how we look at it in the broadest sense, okay?
Right on, I like that, I like that.
Okay, good. So yeah, let's not get too specific, but let's do that. So Zevulon, his flag in the midbar was depicted as ships with sails, which makes you think of travel, movement, interacting with others. That's what he does, okay? So in the Talmud, the Mercury is associated with travel and communications. So this is our famous Shabbat 156a that we look at for the little lowdown on the tribes. So this is my favorite. He who was born under Mercury will be of a retentive memory and wise. That's you, Jonathan, Mr. Virgo. What is the reason? Because Mercury is the sun's scribe, okay? Mercury is the sun's scribe. I love this picture of the scribe at the feet of the king. The sun is the king, and Mercury is writing everything this king is saying down. He's writing it down, walking behind him like a little cartoon. I see him in my mind, you know, like a giant. I would like to be able to draw that, but I just don't have time. So artists, I need your help. Okay, so according to the Jewish understanding of the planetary days as differentiated from the Hellenistic system by our friend Ptolemy, which links the planet Mercury with Wednesday, we hold that Thursday, the 5th day, belongs to the planet Mercury, ruler of Gemini and Virgo. Thursday, people practice benevolence because the birds and fish were created thereon, quote unquote. This is from the Talmud. Gemini and Virgo are the only two signs that are fully human. Sagittarius is half human, half horse. Pisces is two fish. Those are the mutable signs. Gemini, the twins, twin humans, and Virgo, the Betula, the young girl or maiden. Both are ruled by Mercury. They're social signs associated with the thought process, communication, and people skills. So Mercury, I said before, closest to the sun. And here's something fun. Our friend Pierre Gabriel Mancuso cites the 1st century Greek astrologer Dorotheus of Sidon's Carmen Astrologium as the source of the association between Mercury and the act of writing, which I cite there. So Mercury is often seen writing. Here we have a beautiful 16th century Turkish image of a scribe doing the same thing, writing. That's what he's supposed to do. So this is Gemini. This is what the glyph or symbol for Gemini looks like. It looks like two dual vertical lines connected, representing the twins. This is mutable air. Somebody has themselves unmuted. I can hear your clinking. So can you mute yourself? Okay. Transforming thought. So the job of mutable air is to take thought and transform it. I don't know anything more expressive of that than the receiving of the Torah. Nothing changes the mind like Torah. Okay, so it's amazing that Sivan, Gemini, transformative thought, mutable air is the sign of when we receive the Torah. Okay, so of course it's ruled by Mercury. Everybody knows Mercury from Mercury retrograde. It's the most well-known planetary retrograde because it happens 3 times a year, always in the same element. So it'll retrograde in all the fire signs, the air signs, earth or water. Various torturous things happen during that time. Anyway, but everybody knows about it because, as I said, it's everyone has always known about Mercury. As long as there's been a sky, people have known about Mercury, and Mercury is busy all the time, like Gemini, running back and forth, doing this and that. The physical correlations of Gemini, the lungs, the bronchial tubes, the collarbones, the arms and the hands. The Sefer Yetzirah links Gemini to the spleen and the letter Zion, and links Mercury to the right ear and the letter Resh. Ptolemy, on the other hand, links Mercury to speech, thought, the tongue, bile, and the buttocks, okay? Could be because too, so we'll see. So the archetype of Gemini is a trader, a traveler, thinker, writer, intellectual, a trickster. Gemini is a sign of versatility, okay? A mental sign, loves to explore the differentiations between things and make connections. They love to question everything. They like to take up new thoughts and ideas and pass them on to others, making them good traders, agents, and very good gossips, if that's what their job is, okay? Some of the shadow signs, like obviously the shadow sign of communication is gossip. The shadow sign of a clever mind is being fickle. Gemini's function is I think, okay? That's what Gemini's doing. Communicative, curious, inquisitive, quick, restless, multifaceted, versatile, clever, charming, carefree, happy, entertaining, and distracting. Loves variety in all things. By the way, if you're not a Gemini, it doesn't matter because you have Gemini in you. Everybody has all 12 signs in their own personal chart, which we'll get to in a little bit. So wherever you have Gemini in your own personal chart is where you personally manifest these or express these sort of qualities, okay? So information-oriented, striving for knowledge and diversity. Possible manifestations can also include cynicism, shallow, superficial if wounded, fickle, liar, trickster, the fool, or jester. Now there's the whole thing of like the holy jester, okay? So that's the other side of storytellers, travelers, the traveling minstrel. This is messenger of the gods. That's what Mercury is all about, okay? So Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Both of these months that they're associated, which is Sivan and Elul, are connected to Shuva, turning and returning, repentance and returning to God. So Sivan is the month of Matan Torah, receiving the Torah on Mount Sinai. This is the month of David HaMelech. This is our beloved King David. I love this picture. This is from an Ethiopian manuscript book of Psalms depicting King David with a harp or lyre. This is more our our musical King David from Ethiopia, right? So David HaMelech was born and died. His birthday and yahrzeit, like all great tzaddikim, are on the same day. So he died on the holiday of Shavuot, right? Which is always, of course, the same day of Chodesh Sivan. We say the 5th, 6th because it starts at the 9th. It starts, you get there on the 5th and the revelation happens on the 6th. This is what happens. So, of course, we think about David because we read the book of Ruth on Shavuot, right? So Ruth is David's great-grandmother. And that's how we make one of the connections with Ruth and David and Shavuot. So King David has many classical Gemini traits. He's mercurial, he's communicative. Who wrote more beautiful songs than him, okay? He expressed himself through music. Traveling, he was always on the run, really. He was always on the move. He was restless, talented in music, singing, in all communications. He had a feminine side, definitely. Many people believe that he was bisexual. There's a very strong case to be made for that. So there's a sense of ambiguity, and that is something that Gemini possesses. So in Gemini, we have this duality, the Sivan duality. And yet, during Sivan, we receive the Torah with one heart as one person, which is non-duality, right? So we have that also embodied in King David. Multifaceted King David, so many parts to him, but yet he united all of Israel in as one, okay? So, and Gemini, I just like to ask, like, you know, what are we reaching for? This is a question for us to think about. What are we reaching for with our arms, metaphorically speaking? What are we busy with our hands? During Chodesh Sivan, during the energy of Gemini, what's going on with our arms and our hands? What are we reaching for? What are we busy with? This is what we should be thinking about. So normally the Derech Klal, Mercury and Sivan, this is the month of travel. Everybody wants to go on a pleasure trip during Gemini, but no, some of us can't go anywhere. So it is a weird Chodesh Sivan for many of us who are not leaving our homes right now. Okay, so we have to find other ways to travel. That's really, really important. Take a trip, but don't go anywhere. There's many ways to do that. Thank God for the internet, and we can go to fantastic museums online, tour beautiful cities we've never been to online. Thank God, but I would like to do it in the actual body, and may we be doing so soon. And interestingly, Mercury is linked to the sphere of Hod, the Tikkun Zohar, where the planets are associated with specific spherot. I don't agree with that, by the way. I wrote a whole paper about why I don't agree with that, but okay, I guess I'm gonna have to take it up with God later on, you know what I mean? So on about Sivan, Rosh Chodesh Sivan is always only one day. So of course we start counting the Omer on the second night of Pesach. So Rosh Chodesh Sivan is always Tiferet Sheben Malchut. Okay, that's a beautiful way to start the month of Sivan. Okay, so there's this quote from Exodus, Shemot, in the 3rd month after the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt, on that very day, they came to the desert of Sinai. So Jewish tradition says that very day was Rosh Chodesh Sivan. That's what they've attributed to, okay? The full moon of Chodesh Sivan is always in the zodiac sign of Sagittarius. I think we talked about that before, how on a full moon, the sun and the moon are always in signs opposite of each other. So this also connects the opposites of Sivan and Kislev, Gemini and Sagittarius, and Mercury and Jupiter. Again, Mercury and Jupiter are the only planets that have any influence at all on the mutable or changeable signs. Okay, stuff that happened in Chodesh Sivan, well, a little thing called we got the Torah, but also the floodwaters of Noah receded. We camped at Sinai. Korach was swallowed by the earth, and Ezekiel described the downfall of Assyria, all on Rosh Chodesh Sivan. On the 2nd of Sivan, something kind of interesting, not discussed so much because there's a lot of ways to take this that can be harmful, I think. So the idea of chosen people, okay, the day of distinction is on this day that God told Moses that you'll be my chosen people, Am Segula, from among all the nations, for all the earth is mine. You shall be to me a kingdom of priests and holy nation. It's a very important verse. It's a verse that we don't talk about a lot. And maybe that is something to think about in terms of Jacob and Esau and the Gemini twins, and the idea that there's a difference between one thing and the other. At the same time, there's only one. It's all really only one. This duality, non-duality thing can drive you crazy, and that really happens a lot in Gemini, especially for me, because I'm a Sagittarius. So I'm looking at from way across the street, so to speak, all the way from the other side of the zodiac going, what? Okay. So what else happened during Sivan? Of course, Moses sat down on the 4th of Sivan. He was very energetic. He wrote almost all the Torah, allegedly, on the 4th of Sivan, okay? On the 5th of Sivan, we accepted the Torah. We said, all that God has spoken, we shall do and we shall hear, okay? And on the 6th of Sivan, we received the Torah. It was given to us. The 6th of Sivan is also the birthday and yahrzeit of King David, and the yahrzeit of the Baal Shem Tov, the Besht, okay? Think of it, it's the highest. When I lived in Israel, I went to David HaMelech on Mount Zion every single Shavuot, starting in 2006 until the last Shavuot I was there, which was 2013, I guess. Yeah, so connecting David HaMelech, the Baal Shem Tov, and Matan Torah, that's very deep, right? Think about it. It's something it's Gadol. Okay, this back in history, right before, a year before this happened, on the 13th of Sivan, Moses was on Mount Sinai receiving the 10 Commandments. That was before. This is out of order chronologically. The 17th of Sivan, Noah's Ark, rested on Mount Ararat. Interestingly, the 22nd of Sivan, Miriam was quarantined. What for? Lashon Haras, evil speech or speaking out of turn. Whatever the sin was, she did it with her mouth. She spoke. She said something about her brother, Moshe, that God, Hashem, her father, did not like. And she had to go into quarantine because she had this leprosy thing. Okay, leprosy, quote unquote, Saras. So interesting, right? The whole thing about leprosy and about speech and how that works. And then the 29th of Sivan, the last day of Sivan, the spies were sent out to spy on the land of Israel. What are spies are going to tell? They're going to come back and they're going to tell a tale. Okay, so again, I'm doing this with my hand, which I don't know if you can see on the screen. It's me moving in front of my mouth, saying like, talking, right? The Jewish year, our cycle of sacred time. So here we are over here, Zevulon, Gemini, Sivan. We're right here in this part. We're almost to the summer solstice. We're between this area right here, that part of the Mishkan. So again, I think I've mentioned this before, everyone has all 12 signs in their personal natal chart. Zevulon, Gemini, the twins, is the ruler of one of your 12 houses of your individual natal chart. So that's where the energy, your Zevulon energy, your energy is located. So why does your horoscope say, why does my horoscope say I'm a Gemini when I was born during ER or during Tammuz? Because of the Metonic cycle. Just blame the whole thing on the Metonic cycle. So there's different ways a person's birthday can work out. A person can be an ER Gemini if they were born between May 22nd and Rosh Chodesh Sivan. So what's today? Today's May 22nd. If a baby is born today, Rosh Chodesh Sivan is until Sunday. What is that, baby? It's an ER Gemini because it's a sun sign Gemini, but we're still in Chodesh ER. So you see that there's different permutations of the zodiac. That's the answer to the question. Okay, so here's an example using the United States of America. This is America's natal chart. Gemini is the ruler of the 7th house. You see Gemini over here on the 7th house cusp. The 7th house is marriage and partnerships. it's we are, and it's the opposite of the first house, which is I am. I am opposite seventh house, we are. It's all about partnerships. So marriage is a partnership. It's about equal partnerships. It's also about chavrutas. It's also about business partners, okay? Any seventh house relationship that's the seventh house. So Gemini is the ruler of the seventh house. America's seventh house is ruled by Mercury, Gemini, e pluribus unum, right? That is so America. E pluribus unum, out of many one, right? That's Gemini right there. So how American is that? The land of immigrants from every corner of the earth. That's Gemini, land of an enormous amount of variety, not just a variety of people, but in geography, natural resources, and international image and reputation. The arms of the American body are always busy and reach everywhere. That's Gemini in the zodiac man. Shallow side of Gemini here in America's chart is a sense of fickleness, superficiality, untrustworthiness, or lies in relation to other partners. Interesting. And in our natal chart, we have Mars and Uranus. Mars is aggression, and Uranus is uniqueness in the seventh house in Gemini. So we're seen as both aggressive and unique by our partners or other nations with whom we have relationships. Other famous Geminis include Bob Dylan, Shabtai Zissel. The 28th of ER is his birthday. He is a Gemini. He's the ER Gemini. His sun is in Gemini. His moon is also in, his sun is in Gemini. His moon is in Taurus. Donald Trump, born on an eclipse, full moon, lunar eclipse, a Gemini, born on the 15th of Sivan during solar Gemini. So he's a Sivan Gemini. And Marilyn Monroe, also a Gemini, material, changeable, 19th of Sivan. Okay, so she was born the 1st of June. She's also a Sivan Gemini. So you can see that they have all of these different personalities have a sun in Gemini, but all of their suns are, well, actually Marilyn and Donald Trump both have sun in their 10th house. 10th house is fame, is career and vocation and profession. So it's the most visual place where they say, she's an actress, he's a talk show host, he's a president? No, it can't be. Let me see his chart. Okay, he's a reality show star. Okay, so in your chart, if you were looking at your own chart, however your chart would look, wherever Gemini was, wherever the sign of Gemini is in your chart, whatever house it is where your Gemini will manifest. And if you have planets there, that's a whole other thing. So quickly, just about this Chodesh Sivan right now, Hayom, where we are right now. We're about to start anyway. We're at the end of ER. Rosh Chodesh Sivan is Sunday. And Rosh Chodesh Sivan this year, 5780, we have 2 eclipses and a solstice coming up. Okay, so we have all sorts of things going on. We're also going to have a Mercury retrograde. Venus is retrograde in Gemini, giving all sorts of interesting things to this world. So on the 5th of June, it's going to be a lunar eclipse, full moon in Sagittarius, of course, because opposite. At the same time, Mercury will sextile Uranus and Mercury square Chiron. It's going to be a crazy, crazy day, man. I don't suggest that anybody engage in anything resembling potential strife of any kind. And really, everyone should take a vow of silence during that day, but no one's going to listen to me. But if you listened to me, you would report back that I was so right. Okay, so get back to me later on that. Also, on the end of Sivan, the 29th of Sivan, which is the 21st of June, right after the summer solstice, which is on the 21st of June, depending where you are in the world, falls out on 29th of Sivan by us. It's the summer solstice, then a new moon solar eclipse at 0 degrees Cancer. So let me just go back, if I can, show you the zodiac, okay? So let's just pretend this is the zodiac. It's the zodiac, okay? So the lunar nodes, which is the north and south node, take about 18 and a half, 19 months to go through one zodiac sign, and they run backwards. So the last 18, 19 months, the lunar nodes north and south have been Cancer, Capricorn, okay? And now they're switching to Gemini, Sagittarius. So they switched, I think, like May 5th, something like that. They're now for the next 18, 19 months, they're going to be going through Gemini and Sagittarius. So it's a whole new ball game, is what I'm saying. So where was I there? Okay, so what I want to say about the solar eclipse at 0 degrees Cancer, this is the last of the Cancer Capricorn series of eclipses, because eclipses run in accordance to where the lunar nodes are located. So we're going to start having eclipses. We just are having our first eclipse in Sagittarius, and we're going to have an eclipse in Gemini, Sagittarius. Then we'll move on backwards through the zodiac. It'll be Taurus, Scorpio after that. So that's what's happening. And I like to attribute my wonderful teachers in this world and some of the sources that I used here therein, which is going to be available if you'd like to download this after. And now I will take some water and answer any questions, one at a time. Okay, any questions? Hi, does anybody have any questions here?
Oh, there was something that you mentioned that was great. Oh, I'll have to remember.
Okay, where did everybody go?
Hold on.
Everyone's got their cameras off.
Laura, let's
Hi,
see.
people.
That was great.
It was a great, yeah.
It was really fun. I'm not a Gemini, I'm a Virgo, but I have very Gemini nature, rising and ascendant and a yod.
Oh,
So
you have Gemini rising?
Yeah. I tend not to like the Virgo and the Gemini at the same time, but they work really differently.
They do, because one's an earth sign and one's an air sign. So Virgo Mercury has to manifest because it's earth. It has to make something. Gemini doesn't care if it makes anything. It can think things, and it's like, oh, I thought it. Didn't I do it? I thought I did it, or maybe I dreamt it. I'm not sure, but Virgo needs to make that thought into something solid. Yeah. How fun. Hi, Shoshana. Hi, my Gemini twin. Are you okay?
Hi. So I'm not only Sun in Gemini, I'm Virgo also.
Right. Mercury girl, Mercury, double Mercury. Oh, so in a weird way, Shoshana, think about this, because Jonathan is also Mercury. His sun, his rising sign, and his Venus and his Mars are all in all in Virgo.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So
I'm born September 2nd, 13.
Yeah, but Shoshana her moon is in Virgo, which is Mercury, which is connected to you, and she's opposite me in Sagittarius. Our suns are opposite each other. So there's a very nice triangle of Jupiter.
You just disappeared.
No, I'm here. Can you see me? Hear me? It's a nice triangle of Jupiter and Mercury there for the Aquarian Minyan, which is not ruled by Jupiter or Mercury.
You know, you gave me insight into myself as a scribe to the king. I thought that was very helpful. Okay.
Good.
Very helpful, and I'm still cogitating on all this stuff that you just gave me. A lot of insight into my chart today, because it's, because of Gemini. Wow. In my family, I also like the E pluribus unum thing. I want to talk about that. I just read an article. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There's a new article that claims that E pluribus unum is from a Christian Kabbalist who studied with rabbis in the 18th century.
Really?
And that the whole concept of the one and the many is actually Kabbalistic, and it got into American thought in the 18th century. And the founding fathers knew of it from Kabbalah. There's a new book on American Kabbalah that's just coming out from Brill Press, 15 articles.
Oh, nice.
So more Kabbalah got into the American system than we might think. The
Good.
dollar, beside the masonry stuff,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of masonry. There's also more Kabbalah than we thought in America. So
I blame, well, you know what they call the Hermetic system? What's hermeneutics, Jonathan? Can you explain it to the common?
Yeah, so Hermes was a messenger from the gods, but it also is the process of exegesis of interpreting. It's midrash. And hermeneutics is based on midrash, which we all do when we interpret the Bible or any text.
Right, and that's all Mercury.
And that's Mercury. Right, Hermes is Mercury.
Right,
Hermetic.
Hermes is Mercury. Mercury is Greek and Hermes is
there you go.
Roman.
So midrash is built into our psyche to do. The midrashic process is part of the Mercury hermeneutic process, which we all do when we interpret things. That's art, that's poetry, that's midrash, that's all that aspect of the brain and the psyche.
Right.
So I want to thank you for helping me make that connection with hermeneutics.
And interpretation is like criticism is a Virgo functionality. Interpretation is a Virgo functionality.
Yeah,
so a person with a moon in Virgo interprets emotions and analyzes them.
But men
analytic. But that's not how Gemini works. It's just data. Gemini doesn't care. It's random. It's promiscuous. Okay, I'm sorry. It's a great word, and I don't mean it in a negative way.
Who's promiscuous here?
No, the word promiscuous I'm using for Gemini in terms of information. It's not. Its job is to gather information, not to edit. Editing is Virgo.
So I have a Gemini friend, and one of her rules of communication is don't be boring. And it drives me crazy. It's so unnuanced. It's like, I'm not going to say her name. It just doesn't. It's so wrong. I mean, that's the whole problem with the culture right now.
Very low level Gemini. She needs some help with her chart so she can find out what in her chart can help her with that, because it's always
because you have to be bored to get anywhere. You know, you're not going to create anything unless you
have to have some discernment. So you have a moon in Virgo, so it really bothers you because emotionally.
No, I have a sun in Virgo.
Oh, your sun in Virgo. Okay.
Yeah.
Lorelai, this is Janice. I can't get my video back for some reason. You know, I put it on.
Janice, this is being recorded and it's going to be archived, so I'm not sure you want your video on.
But I wanted to give a shout out to the people who have the talking about the Virgo Gemini combination.
Yeah,
I'm a Virgo, and my moon's in Sagittarius, so I don't have the Gemini.
But you have the mutable. You're mutable.
Yeah. But for years and years of working in a large office and knowing a lot of people, I've noticed, and also with relatives, there's something very sweet about the Gemini Virgo combination, whichever one is the sun and the other one is the moon. These people are always have a kindness and a reflectiveness and a way to hesitate before judging and be really nice people to be around and work with. And so I just want to give a shout out to that particular square.
I love that. I love that.
Gemini Virgo.
I want to thank you for bringing that up, and that really reminds me of Shoshana when you say that.
I didn't know her moon's in Virgo.
No, I guess so. Her moon's in Virgo and her sun's in Gemini, so she's like that. That thing about the birds that I brought up somewhere along the line. The Talmud said, was it the Talmud? I don't know. It was something about kindness, about there's a thing about kindness, speaking with kindness, which is really grace and kindness. Okay, so
I don't know why it's that combination. I've noticed it repetitively.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's a really interesting one. Whoops, Baruch Hashem. Okay, wait, escape. Okay.
Lorelai, I have some a couple of paintings of bird angels that I'd like to send you. I was a little surprised when they showed up, but
oh wow.
Yeah, I was like,
how cool. I would love to see them. Thank you. Wow. And does anybody have any other questions? Anything? All these other people have their cameras off. I hope that they're going to listen to the recording or whatever. It's nice to see everybody. Mark D is raising his hand or something. Do you have a question, Mark D? Or is that like a high five?
I'm just clapping.
Oh, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
That was
good.
great. Thank you again.
What?
That was great. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Such great classes.
I'm really having a good time with them. Once a month, you know, it's really all I can handle right now. So, okay, thank you, everybody. I think I'm going to turn the